Hi, everyone. My name's Courtney Kalbach. Welcome to our last webinar of this school year about creativity technology tools. Oh, there I am. Hi. Finally have my camera working for the third webinar now. We are talking about creativity tools today. We're going to start with Google Slides and some advanced features that you can use in Google Slides. And then we'll talk about Soundtrap. And then we have Canva and Infogram, which are used for creating infographics and other different, projects. So I am going to, here we go, get started and show you some information that we like to get started with during every webinar. So if you haven't already, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat in YouTube. You can also join our RC Instructional Technology Schoology group. Here is the access code if you're not joined already. And we have our instructional technology page on Inside Red Clay, which I'll show you in a second. And then here are our our Twitter handles. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow each of us on Twitter. Okay, normally we have, the past two webinars, we've had a special guest, a real teacher showing us some different technology tools and how they use the tool or Schoology or whatever it is in their classroom. We tried to get a special guest this time also, but with all different activities and the end of the school year, it was really difficult. But a couple of teachers sent us some examples and gave us some good ideas for real life applications that we'll share with you. If you have something that you'd like to present during a webinar, you can email me, Karen Ammon, or Beth Schwartz, and we'd be happy to, talk to you, and we can figure out if it's something that we think the mass audience would like to learn too, and you're welcome to present on a webinar also. So let me just show you our instructional technology page. If you're on Inside Red Clay and you go to Working Here, and then instructional technology. This is our page. Over here, I like to always show the quick tips library. If you had a question on something like Schoology, Smart, Google, you can click the quick tips library and then find, whatever you're looking for. Like last month or a couple months ago, we talked about portfolios. So you could click portfolios and there's some information. Okay, and if there's something on here that you don't see that you wish were there, feel free again to email Karen, Beth, or myself, and we'll work hard to get it up there as soon as we can. If you click here where it says Learning on Demand, here are learning professional development that you can use at any time. So if you're at home or after school, you can do these professional development opportunities, and especially right now, collect some snow hours. So here are 3 webinars. We have some Spark courses going on, some other online Schoology courses that you can go through to get professional snow hours. And we also created this page right here, got the snow hour blues. So here's some online professional development that you can do at home to get your snow hours. All right. And here's our instructional technology Schoology group. Please join it. We post updates a few times a week, different, announcements, but also like some quick tips and quick ideas. Fun things like if we hear about a virtual field trip on Discovery Ed, we'll post that, and then you can learn about different things, different exciting events. All right, so I'm going to get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is Google Slides. This was actually the presentation that I was going to do at the conference, but unfortunately I had like a minor medical emergency and I couldn't come. And I was really, really disappointed and upset. So I'm glad that now I can kind of reuse this presentation. This is the full presentation, but since tonight's topic is about creativity tools, I'm really just going to focus on the create like how you can use Google Slides to create. So you're more than welcome. Beth just put the link into the chat. If you click the link, you can explore what's in there. You can also click file, make a copy, and get your own copy of the presentation, because I'm not going to go through everything because this was meant to be used during a 40-minute PD session. And I'm just going to cut this down to like 12 to 15 minutes. So you can look at all of it. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about anything that's in there. I'm just going to like quickly go through the creative stuff, and there's some links in there with tutorials that you can take a look at. But again, if like I'm going to go fast, so if there's something that you want to go over more in depth, just email Karen, Beth, or I. Okay? So really the idea behind students creating and using technology to create is that idea of the student-centered classroom, where the students are taking more ownership of their learning. And it's that idea of like more them, less you. So less of the teacher and the students like creating more. Okay, so I'm on this second slide that it says just student creation. I always like to remind people that if you are a PowerPoint user, you can take your PowerPoint slides, slide them or upload them into Google Drive, and then open them as a Google Slides presentation. So they will transfer the best that they can into Google Slides, and then you can change them up. That's always something that's good to know if you're like a heavy PowerPoint user and you don't want to make the move. Google really tries to make that easy for you. Okay. The first thing that I like to always that was like mind blowing to me, and that's why this picture's here of like the head like exploding and the pink arrow here, is that you can change the size of Google Slides to any size that you want. And then Slides kind of acts like Microsoft Publisher, if you've ever used Publisher before. So this is a totally separate Slides presentation. So this is just a sample that I'm going to show you out a few of the different techniques. So if I have this Slides presentation and you click File and Page Setup, this is where you can click Custom and then change the size of your slide. So now it's in inches and it's 8.5 by 11, or is it 10? A piece of paper. Well, you can change it to the size of a piece of paper. And now this is really nice because you could have your text boxes and you can slide them around on the screen or on the page. You can insert images. Okay, and you can just move them more freely on the page. So you could make like your newsletter. Students could make an infographic, which is going to be another topic that we're going to touch on. You can do more in Google Slides by sliding and manipulating these different pieces instead of Google Documents. You can't like really slide text boxes or images in a Google Doc. It's not super user friendly and it's not easy. But if you change the size of a slide, you can do it pretty simply. Okay. Alrighty. So here is, I mentioned infographics. So you can create an infographic just like how I just showed you in slides by maybe resizing the slide. Here's an example of an infographic that was from Ms. Hugh Blind's class at Ritchie. This is from a 4th grade student. So they actually kept the slide the same size, but they were able to move their text boxes, like the polar bear and the text, have some different pictures here, add captions and arrows. So this is like a graphic source or an infographic that a student can make using slides. Okay. And if you, I put here, choose one that you like online to model after. Sometimes we think of infographics and it's hard to come up with a layout. So a good way to think of a layout is maybe just Google infographics and then you click images and you just get like all kinds of images or pictures or examples of infographics. So then you could kind of model yours off of the ones that you find online. All right, next, last month during the webinar, Karen talked about the Screencastify extension, and I wanted to put that in here because this is a reminder that Screencastify is an extension that teachers and students can download, and it is so easy. You just install the extension, and then you can record anything that happens on your screen. Okay, so you could talk over a slides presentation. You could have a how-to example on your slide and you're moving numbers or text boxes, you're sliding things, you're manipulating or data or moving arrows to just show anything that happens on your screen. Really right now, what we're doing is an example of a screencast because I'm sharing my screen and talking over what's happening on the screen. Okay. The next few examples that I'm going to show, you can also throw Screencastify right in there. Even in the infographic, if you have a student who here we have the polar bears who created an infographic, they could now install Screencastify, record their screen, and talk about their infographic. They could read it, they could say where they got their information, why they chose those pictures, why they chose those captions, and then just share the video, okay? So I'm going to touch back on that. So think about Screencastify as I go through the next few examples. All right, the next one is storybook creation. And this uses transitions and animations to create the storybook feel. If you click this link, and a lot of these examples are from a great blogger, a great trainer, Google trainer. His name is Eric Kurtz. If you click this link, it goes right to his blog. His blog is called Control Alt Achieve. And he has lots of great and like innovative ideas of how to use Google products. So this is his tutorial on how you do this, how you have students create storybooks. Once you realize what you're doing, it's really easy. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of his examples. So I just scrolled down and here's an example of his storybook. So I'm just going to press play and you'll see that transitions are now just sliding, taking the slides and sliding them to the left as if it's a storybook. Okay, so like you would just read the story and then it's almost like turning the page. Okay, so let me just show you quickly how he did that. I mean, once you realize what it is, it's very easy. So let me change this back, page setup, put this back to the standard size. Okay, so let's just pretend that these were my slides. These were my pages in the story. So I have the title, I have page 1, page 2, page 3. Okay, so all that he is doing is right-clicking on a slide, and he put here, I have change transition, but yours might say like apply or add a transition. It's kind of like PowerPoint, like when I used to create PowerPoints and I had like a transition between every single slide. So here's the animation, the transition, and you just choose slide to the right. So they have other transitions here. Like remember the one that would like shrink or like get larger, or like it would be like a checkerboard and different boxes would like fade away. So it's essentially the same thing from PowerPoint. You're just adding in a transition. So slide from the right, and I'm just going to slow it down a little bit, make it a little slower, apply it to all slides. So that's the first step. Now I could just play it. So once you play it, and down here I'm pressing play, it's going to just transition and slide to the next page. So that's how you could get students to present. Okay, that's one way. That's probably the simplest way. Another like quick tip or something that not a lot of people know about is that you can publish these slides to the web. So I'm clicking File, scroll down to Publish to the Web, and I want the link, and it says Auto Advance Slides every 3 seconds. Start the slideshow as soon as the player loads. So as soon as you press enter and the website loads, it's going to start. You can also restart it. Like as soon as it gets to the end, it can restart. And you click publish. Okay, so there's that link. Just copy that link. And I'm going to open a new tab and paste that link. And now this is its own web page. So now my presentation, it's just going on its own as if it's a storybook, is just its own website. So that's a great way too to share the publish link, like with parents or with other classes. You know, kids could just take that publish link and give it to you in Schoology, and then you're just clicking the links in Schoology. And viewing the storybook or whatever is in the slides. Okay. So when you're done, if you click here, like if you don't want it published anymore, you don't want to share the link anymore, you can always just click there and click stop publishing. All right, so now it's not published to the web anymore. That link wouldn't work. This is another time, like I said, that you could use Screencastify. So you could test a student's fluency and have them read their storybook as they're going through the slides and then just share the link with you. All right. So next, comic strips, they go kind of just with the storybook idea. This is, again, Eric Kurtz's blog, and it has all his like tutorials on how to do or how to create a comic book. I have his example here. Once you see it, it's essentially the same thing as the storybook. Here it is. So he used that publish to the web link, and this is his comic, and you just press play on this one. And you'll see that he still uses the transition like I showed you, but he's also now using animation, and he used the call outs feature. So it looks more like a comic. Okay, so it's not like a storybook, but it's actually a little more animated. And it looks like the students are, or the characters in the comic are like talking with that call out. Okay, so this is, again, another time where you could use that Screencastify extension. Students make their comic and they're describing or talking about whatever the purpose of the lesson was, or the purpose of the activity, and then they would just share the video with you. So let me just show you again how he did that quickly. So let me go to this slide. So insert, let's do search the web. So let's do like a bug here. Bug. And you can even, I'm going to add clip art. So now I get like a cartoony bug. insert. And then up here where you have the shapes, this is where you get the call outs. So we have a call out here and the bug is talking. I double clicked in the call out to type in it. All right. And I right clicked on the call out and here's animate. So not only do I have transitions between slides, but I'm also animating objects on the slide. So this object I want to fade in, but I want it to be after the previous, like once it gets to the slide, instead of me clicking on it. And play, and let's see how it looks. It slides in and then it fades in. So he just was using a mixture of transitions between the slides and animation of the objects on the slide. Next is stop motion animation. We've had some teachers ask us for like apps or extensions for stop motion animation, and you can to create those videos, and you can actually use Google Slides to create stop motion animations. Here's Eric Kurtz's article, his blog about it. He used his camera. So you'll see like he has like these Legos, and then he takes a snapshot and then creates another slide. Then you would move like the Legos slightly, and then you take another snapshot. And that's what creates like the stop motion animation. It's kind of like one of those flip books like that you used to like draw on a piece of paper and you'd like staple them or put them all together and then you'd like fly like through them, you know, like with your thumb. So that's essentially what you're creating, but you're making it on slides. So here's another slide. So what he did was insert image, but he went to camera instead. So you're going to see me on the camera. If you had like Legos or objects or something, so you could have something in the front of the camera, and then you just press this yellow camera snapshot button. Okay. Insert the picture. And then you could add another slide, new slide. And again, just do the same thing, like move your objects a little bit, go to camera. Again, take another image here. I'll like move slightly. Take the snapshot, insert. So then you see like the picture is moving. And that's again where he adds the transitions and that publish to the web. And then it would flip through almost like an animated like book. So it looks like a comic or like an animation. Okay. You can also, if you looked at the webinar last month, Karen talked a little bit about this, but she used actual images and she had the ball moving. So like here we have the bug. I'm right clicking on a slide and duplicating slides. So now I have the same slide, but let's say I want the bug to look like it's moving. So I can keep duplicating these slides and just keep moving the bug. So then as we flip through, it kind of looks like he's walking. So you can do it with images that you upload, that you get from the web, or actual like camera snapshots. Okay. And lastly is, or not lastly, this is second to last, is choose your own adventure story. And this is, again, Eric Kurtz has a great article about it. My advice is that you should map out your choose your own adventure story before you go and make it on slides. If you, again, ever used PowerPoint, it's essentially linking slides to other slides. So if you've used PowerPoint, you probably know how to do that already. Up here is my sample. So if I'm making a choose your own adventure story, if you're familiar with them, you would start, and then as the story goes on, students or the reader would choose their path. Okay, so here is my path. Am I going to go through the woods, or am I going to go down like the empty, like calm path? So depending what students would choose is where the slide would go next. So I have 2 slides here, but I already put ladybugs on them. But this says in the woods. And this one says down the clear path. So if I'm using down the clear path, you go up here to link and you want to click slides in the presentation. So down the clear path would be for this picture. And here I'm linking again, slides in the presentation. In the woods is this picture. So then now as the reader came to this page and was going to make a choice, they would click the picture and go to the woods and maybe get another task or activity or read something or make another choice. Or if they're here down the clear path, they click here and now they go to the one that says down the clear path. Okay. All right. So lastly, and this example I thought went more with student collaboration, but I wanted to throw it in there as it could be creative too. This is using slides along with the camera, like I just showed you, to, let me make this a little larger, to each student would share their knowledge. So this is actually from Alice Keeler's book. It's Teaching Math with Google Apps. So this is one of her examples, and Karen shared this at one of our tech nights, and this is a tweet from Tori Curtis at Cook. And we've had a few people try this with their classes. So in this example from Tori, each student got a quarter sheet of paper. So she just took a piece of paper and cut it into 4 pieces. And each student had to show how they solved their problem. And then they used that camera, like I showed you, to hold up their picture in front of their camera on their Chromebook, and then inserted their picture. And then on the left, they just wrote like how they solved their problem. Explain their thinking. Show your work, explain your thinking. I feel like you probably think I showed you a lot, and there's a ton of examples in there. If you, like I said, check out Eric Kurtz's blog. But really, I just showed you these 5 things. How to file, page setup, resize your page. Right-clicking on a slide and duplicating the slide. You use that for the storybook. You use that for the stop motion animation. File publishing to the web and sharing that link so that it's on its own website. I showed you how to link slides like in the Choose Your Own Adventure. And then I also showed you insert, image, and camera. So those are just like 5 different techniques that you could use in a ton of different activities. Oh, one more thing. If you go to inside Red Clay, and like I said, the intranet, instructional technology page, and over here, Quick Tips Google, I have a page here, Google Slides. So here is some information on Google Slides. A lot of what I showed you is on this hyperdoc that I created. I can also put this presentation up there. I also like to show, if you click here, slides in the G Suite Learning Center. I talked about this last month, but G Suite has a wonderful, fabulous place where you can go and just learn like basic information about all of the Google products. So this is their page about Google Slides if you need help getting started. So now I will pass the mic to Karen.
Hey, Courtney, can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, hi, we see you.
You can see me too. So if you guys tuned in last month, then you noticed that Courtney and I had a little bit of mic problems between the 2 of us in the same room. So this month we're giving it a shot by me being down the hall a couple of doors, and we're seeing if it's a little bit better with the microphone. In addition, we also noticed that we had some sound issues when playing some of those screencastifys. So as you can see, I've got no microphone or no headset on today. So we're hoping that as I move through the web and show you some things for sound that you'll be able to hear. given the fact that we're talking about Soundtrap, it's kind of important that you can hear my computer. So I'm just going to make sure that my volume is up, and it is. And I'm going to take you to Soundtrap. So Soundtrap is one of those freemium websites or freemium tools. And what that means is that they offer you a very small portion of their tool for free. And of course, if you're willing to pay for it, then there's a whole lot more that you can do with it. I today am only talking about the free portion of Soundtrap. Perhaps many of you or some of you are familiar with the Apple products, specifically GarageBand. With GarageBand, you have the ability to create music. I mean, it's really a rather robust tool, if you will. I mean, some people can literally create original soundtracks and professional quality music. That would not be me with GarageBand. And until recently, I really didn't know of any other tool that functioned the same way. But Soundtrap is definitely in the same line as GarageBand. So you see here that I'm on the main page for Soundtrap. And how I got there was I typed in soundtrap.com, and I went, and of course I'm logged into Google. And so I automatically was logged in. It kind of passed me right through. If I was not logged into Google, then I would have clicked sign in and then sign in with Google and selected my Red Clay Schools account. And here I am. And the first thing you notice is the bright orange that says free user upgrade, which I will not be upgrading, but I do have the pricing next to my website so that we can see what they're talking about here. So this is nice. If you're interested in spending a lot of money. I am not. So I'm curious what the basic Soundtrap was offering me. And as you can see, it's for $0. It's free. Then I have 5 projects or 888 loops, which are pieces of music. I have 210 instruments and sounds that are available to me. So I'm okay with that, because I can keep my projects to a minimum, because one of the things that I can do with Soundtrap once I finish a piece is download it, and then I can delete it from Soundtrap. So that's pretty nice. So I'm going to go back to my interface. And the first thing I really want to show you after we get past their fees is talking about some of the information here on the right-hand side of the main menu. One of the things that Soundtrap really allows kids to do, much like many of the things that you can link to through Google accounts, is collaborate. And so I have the opportunity to create a personal soundbite just for me. And I have the ability to create more personalized information about myself. I can invite friends to follow along with me. Of course, in Red Clay, that would be other Red Clay School users. This is not necessarily something that I have spent a lot of time cultivating for myself in my Soundtrap, because Soundtrap is usually just things for myself. As I scroll down, you'll see here that I have my projects, my public profile, which I'm not really interested in, and then education. I can start a collaboration. So if I were going to be working with if I was going to have students work with each other, say on a podcast, or maybe developing a piece of music if I was a music teacher, or an oral report that is going to overlap with a slideshow, maybe something that Courtney showed you, and they're going to record their sound separately. Then we could start a collaboration where more than one student could work to create the sound file. Because keep in mind, Soundtrap is only a sound file. So you see here, I have something called Karen's Song. I assure you that it is nothing of my personal song. It is more than likely a recording that I took for a sound effect off of YouTube that actually my daughter needed. So it is nothing that I created, but that's their default name, would be your name and your song. So I'm going to enter the studio right here with this purple button. And when I enter the studio, I then am given some options. You'll see that it's going to load. So I could do some demo tracks, okay, one-man chorus, a podcast, dubstep, all kinds of options here. I usually aim for blank. And now that I'm actually in the studio, I could browse for loops that they're going to provide me. Remember, I had 210 loops, or no, 880 loops. I could make patterns. I can play the synthesizer. I could add a new track. I can import a file, and I can invite a friend. So I can also record. Importing a file largely is what I've been doing, especially if there was a sound effect that I needed from somewhere else, like on YouTube, like a door knocking. I can import the MP3 or MP4 file right in, MP3. For today, I'm just going to record myself by pressing this little, hopefully I'm going to record myself by pressing this little record button. Oh, new track. Oh, here we go. Let's see. We're going to do voice and microphone. I'm going to start recording. I'm going to allow my microphone. So the same process that you would use with Chromebooks, you're going to have to allow the microphone. I am not using a headset, but I will talk here briefly. If you're having students do any sort of recording in your classroom, or if you're going to record, truly the best way to do so is with a headset on. Even the earbuds that have the built-in microphone piece, it's not like you need to have like you're not Britney Spearsing with the big piece that comes across in front of you, but even just like the little earbuds work perfectly because it kind of helps to channel your voice into the microphone, makes you sound a little less tinny, gives maybe a little bit more bass to the sound of the recording. But for today's purposes, I'm not using headphones, so I guess I have a lot of treble and I'm sounding a little tinny today, but that's okay. Protect your ears and monitoring. Okay, that's great. And it's giving me a countdown. And now it's recording me. So I can record myself. I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk. And I'm not going to talk for long because this is already being recorded once. So we'll stop there and it's going to process. And I have the opportunity to play here with the volume, how the reverberation of the sound. And I can save my presets, add instruments, and I am going to save my song here. And then once it's done being saved, and actually let's see if I X this out here, I can see it here on my tracks, and I can add a new track to this. So maybe now I want to add a guitar, and because this is already being recorded once. So you're getting that guitar-like sound quality to it. And then I can overlap it here. And I can drag these different sound clips around. I can also copy it and paste. And I can repeat and repeat and repeat all the way through. Perhaps I don't want to go that long with the second rendition. I can shorten it. Maybe I want this track to be a little lower volume. So here are those same features over here. And this one's going to be left loud. Okay. I can isolate one. Bring the playhead back. And now it's recording. So I can record myself. I'm going to talk. Okay. So, and I can keep going and layering my tracks all the way down. And then what I can do once it's all done and I save it, I'm then able to export it out from here and save it to the computer or save it to a Google Drive, for example. So let's talk about, so there you go. There's your export. Export to an MP3 or a WAV. I usually do MP3. Now, this is a common, I won't say it's an error, but it's a common message that you get because it takes Soundtrap a good minute or so to, quote, mix or create our recording. I have to say, it usually doesn't take much time. You can kind of see up here, it's kind of grayed out a little bit where it's still mixing, so it's still thinking about it and prepping it. I liken this to when you're doing any sort of video work. It usually takes the program some time in order for it to pull it all together and make it ready for exporting out of its original form into a final product. So I'm going to say okay, and we could be patient here while we wait for this. One of the things I wanted to show was a finished product that a high school class did using Soundtrap, and that was a podcast. So I'm going to play this podcast.
Imagine a world of silence, a world with a population of one. You. How do you learn to listen without being able to hear?
So I want you to listen to what you're actually hearing. You hear the child speaking the portion of the podcast, but you also hear the background music, and then you'll hear a couple of other sound effects in the first 30 seconds of this podcast.
That's what it's like to be faced with silence. People try to communicate with you, but you are trapped in a world of mouths moving and nothing coming out of them. Deafness. Total or significant loss of hearing, defined by the Gale Encyclopedia of Psychology. People who are deaf.
I seem to have had excellent timing in cutting her off right where she cut herself off and cut the background music off. So unfortunately the impact was kind of lost with my own pausing of the podcast. So in talking with the student who created this, along with the writing piece that went with this in class and the study of podcasts and the art of podcasting to make it interesting to a listener, the child also talked about how easy it was to use Soundtrap. In fact, the teacher kind of gave a couple of different options for different ways to record online, and Soundtrap was definitely found to be the easiest and able to layer. And that's probably the biggest important part of Soundtrap, is the ability to layer all of these different sounds and opportunities and into the final piece. So kind of starting with the end in mind. So why Soundtrap? So this is from the tech conference. So if you're in with me in the tech conference, you may have already seen this. So why are we thinking outside the box and pushing the idea of creativity with the computers? And this comes from Shake Up Learning, Casey Bell, who's another Twitter account that we follow. And I think that her quote right here that I just put up is really rather poignant. One of the things that Courtney, Beth, and I are often asked with teachers when we hold PDs is about stopping kids from dishonesty and academic dishonesty. And there's some pretty scary things out there that really make our plight as teachers kind of difficult. So when I think about this quote from Casey Bell, and it says, if an assignment can be easily duplicated, we need to consider more original product types. And when you start to branch into the idea of creativity and asking kids to show you what they know and to show demonstration of mastery and content understanding, you're really pushing that envelope into an area where kids cannot simply purchase a copy of your test online or purchase somebody else's work that they can hand in for their writing. But you're asking them then to create and to take ownership of their learning, which also goes back to that whole philosophy of that student-based or student-centered classroom. So this particular quote from Casey Bell really hits home with me, because I think the idea of asking them to create their own product, and then the second part of that, which is asking them to reflect and explain their ideas and thinking and why they chose what they chose as a way of showing you their learning, is rather powerful. And the last thing I will show you before I turn this back to Courtney is just the idea, one more time, of Soundtrap, and keeping in mind that it is freemium. So for free, you are limited in the quantity of projects that you can create. It's easy to log in with redclayschools.com. It can be accessed through Schoology as well. It ties in directly with Schoology, which is actually how the podcast was made that I showed you. You can edit, overlay, blend, and mix sound clips. It's easy for podcasting. there's a link for student examples, so I'll have Courtney add this to the webinar as well. And then 2 additional links, including using podcasting with Soundtrap, and then using that collaboration tool on Soundtrap.
You mentioned that students were using Soundtrap for podcasting, and
Yeah.
some people in the chat brought up different examples too of like how teachers could use Soundtrap. Like, can you think of any other ways or activities that a teacher would use or a student could use Soundtrap?
Sure. It depends upon how creative that teachers really want, how much creativity and originality they want to bring into the final piece. So, sometimes students don't want to, a lot of times students, even teachers, don't want their face to be shown on a camera. They're not real comfortable with the whole concept of screencasting or being pictured. Hence the reason why I'm hiding behind this happy little slide right now, and you don't see me because that was fine briefly, but we don't need to go back to seeing me on this camera. So giving students the same opportunity to explain their learning using a sound file alone is certainly one benefit. Another would be for teachers to give directions. A sound clip could be used for giving directions on the day or narrating something that they're showing their students.
I think that it's really nice to see that you can edit in Soundtrap for free. We talked about the microphone and Schoology, and we talked about Screencastify, but you can't edit your sound files once you create something. And especially students, they have a hard time with just saying like, you get one take, that's it. So at least in Soundtrap, if they're recording something like a podcast or an interview, or they could create anything, that they can then edit those sound files in Soundtrap with or without music.
Absolutely. And really the whole editing piece is huge, because it's one of the big downfalls with Screencastify is that, you get the one take and you don't have the opportunity to go in and edit out the mistake or the misspoken word or I mean, listen to me, I can't even get a sentence out without stumbling. So if I were recording this and I get myself to the point of being fluid in a thought or in a sentence, then you can easily edit out those parts, splice them together, and then keep moving forward with the project. And it doesn't become quite so bogged down in trying to get that perfection. It just kind of is able to be created behind the scenes without anybody ever realizing it. And you're right, Courtney, using the microphone in Schoology is a little bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes a little bit quirky too. So if it's something that is able to be narrated on the side and blended together and added to a feature like describing the assignment or students describing the work, then the sound clip can be added in on top of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay. We only have a few minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly talk about Canva and Infogram. There's really not a lot to it. So I think that will be okay if I just briefly show it. I am right here, and Beth will post the link in quick tips and info on our website. And if you click infographics, here we are. So here are some links to 2 different places where you can create infographics. My most favorite is Canva. And you can click that link. You see that I've created lots of stuff for our website and our advertisements using Canva. When you click this plus sign, here you can get all different types of templates. Some notable ones are like the social media where you can create a meme. You can create anything. This is from Miss Veritas's class at Cook, where they were reading a book and a student made this meme. There's also the infographic, which is right here, and it's also over here. That's my favorite one. There's posters, certificates, like teachers can make certificates, cards, invitations. You can also just search for school and some different options come up there. Let me just show you quickly the infographic. Once it loads, then you can pick your template. Most, I'd say like 90 or maybe like 80% of everything on Canva is free. So you want to check and remind students of this icon down here where it says free or if it costs money. Look, I'm trying to scroll down and even, here we go. Here's the dollar sign. So you'll see that one costs money. There's no credit card connected to Canva. If there is no credit card connected to Canva, which most likely for a student, I mean, I'd say probably not. So even if they did choose something that was paid, they can't pay for it. So once you choose your infographic, then you can edit the colors, the text. You can add in different images. Like here, I might want this one to be about recycling. So I'm choosing a tree that I'm going to add and, manipulate it on my infographic. If you do find one that does cost money, here is one that's $1. I mean, they're not expensive if you're a teacher and want to buy one, but they have this like little watermark on them. You can also share infographics or anything in Canva, like so that someone can collaborate with you. And when you're done, you can download them. Okay, and quickly, Infogram is one that I like to show, especially for math or science or teachers that, have real data that they want to show. Infogram is for infographics or projects that you have real data. So here is an example. I just inserted, I have this infographic and here I put in a pie chart. And when you double click it, you can see you can upload an Excel file or change this data to actually see real information on a chart or a graph. And you go over here and that's where you can add the different graphs. Like Soundtrap is freemium. So is Infogram. You get 10 projects for free. So as time goes on, I can't foresee you making, using this for everything. So it's like if you're done with the project, you delete it. If you get up to 10, delete it and then add a new one. I feel like 10 is plenty. Okay, so that was very, very quickly, but I feel like our teachers who really want to use these two will definitely use them. Now I'm just going to show the, here we go, the exit ticket. Okay, good. So Beth just posted the link. Here it is on the screen. So if you are collecting your snow hour or you're putting in for 1 hour of EPR, here's the information. And once you submit it, then we'll do your attendance in DSE. And that's really it. And we hope to see you next year during our webinars and our tech nights and our conference. Email Karen Ammon, Beth Schwartz, or myself, Courtney Kalbach, if you have any questions or need any help. We're here and happy to help. Okay, thank you.